Baby. Yo, what's up, people? How we doing today? I got my Marge right here. Boom, got a little coffee going on. I hope your Saturday is going good, too. We are just kicking it out here today. How's everybody out there in the chat? Let me give a shout out to Mr. Jeeky. He's about ready to go get some birthday cake. Bro, get a slice for me. Get a slice for me. Let's fucking go. We got James out there. We got the Warrior of God. What's going on? Good to see you. We got who else was it? We got somebody else out there. I gotta get my glasses on to read that. YTalks 82. What's up, YTalks 82? We got Paulus Arts out there. Big shout out to Paulus Arts. He's over there crushing it, doing all kinds of hush art projects we got that he's got in the works. I've seen a couple of those that had me laughing, dying. He's doing some a little bit of animation action that I've seen some of the animations and they're fucking great. How's everybody doing today? How's your Saturday going? Are you guys stoked? How's the weather where you're at? Okay, good question. The weather is actually nice where I'm at right now. For some reason, it got all cold there for a couple days and rained like crazy, didn't it? And now it's just not too hot, not too cold, not rainy at all. Not rainy at all. So I'm really happy about that. I could get my, cut off sleeves back out again, my tank tops, and let's kick some ass, kind of thing going on. So, but what have you guys been up to? You guys, anybody been doing anything fun out there in the this week? We had a banger week, didn't we? This week was crazy. I remember, like, it seems like so long ago we were just talking about the Hassan Piker dog shock collar kind of thing going on, and that was wild. I thought that was gonna be like around for a while. We did a couple of cartoons on that. I got a couple right here. We had Sam Hyde over there going to rescue the dog. I did a couple more, but sometimes I got like 3 or 4 sketchbooks right over here, and sometimes I kind of go back over them to kind of see what the hell happened this week. What the hell is going? Oh, bro, did you guys remember when that haka thing happened this week? When the people were all dancing and doing that haka thing. Bro, how cringe is the haka dance? That stuff is that's wild to me. That's wild. Those people actually they used to be cannibals back in the day, from what I hear, and then now they're just up there in Parliament doing a dance and sticking their tongue out and completely lacking in self-awareness, which is a great example of what we're going to talk about a little bit later, field theory. And the field theory, it's funny because Hillbilly Harry was busting my balls a little bit earlier, and he was saying, isn't field theory when you get wasted and you find yourself out in the field trying to figure out what the hell the meaning of life is? And he had me dying on that one, but it's really true. It's really true. It's like I don't know if it's ever happened to you guys, but there's a certain you get drinking alcohol and you get a buzz and you get happy, right? And then you drink more and you get like obnoxious, and you drink more and you get like rambunctious and you want to start a scene and get raucous and all that. You drink even more and you're horny as hell and you're looking around, and then you drink even more. Anyway, you keep drinking, and at some point you're going to come to the point where you drink yourself sober and life stops and you're sitting there trying to figure out, like, all of a sudden you're a philosopher. Have you guys ever been in that situation? You drank yourself so drunk that now you're a sober philosopher trying to figure out, how in the hell did I get here? What's going on? Where am I going in my life? Like, what the hell? And I've definitely been there a couple times. I ain't shy with the tequila. I'll tell you that right now. I ain't shy at all. But there was a time when I drank whiskey, and I drank a lot of what is it, a Gentleman Jack, and I drank a lot of Knobs Creek. Oh, I had big old bottles of that Knobs Creek stuff, and a couple of other ones, right? And then I drank it too much, and my body just rejected it now. And I remember I went on this I was at this party. And for some reason, I had drank a lot of that Knobs Creek at this party. It was like a Christmas party or something. I can't remember what it was. And I was so excited to go to this party because there was this girls there that I wanted to meet and all this kind of stuff. And I was so excited and I was all pumped up and ready to go. I had my nice little outfit on. I had my smell goods on. I was smelling all good. I even cleaned my fingernails. I got them all good. And because girls look at that stuff. Well, if they really like you, they don't give a fuck. If they really like you, man, you could be a heroin user. You'd be like, hold on, honey, I gotta shoot up and roll over, teeth falling out, and they'd still like you. But you know, that's how it goes. But anyway, so I had my smellums on, right? And I get there and I'm all amped. I'm with the guys and we're with the boys and we do the boot and the beer. You know, the boot and the beer in San Francisco. There was this. I lived in San Francisco for a couple years, and there was this bar, and in the bar they served their shot glasses of whiskey when they were little boots. They were glass cowboy boots. And so, you know, the thing was always, you know, hey, let's go get a boot and a beer. Let's go grab a boot and a beer. And so you get your boot and you shoot the boot, you know, then you sip the beer and you have a good time and all that kind of stuff. And so I got a boot and a beer. And I tell you, back then, I loved San Francisco, except for the weather was too cold and the people were fucked up. But, bro, the city is so nice. The city is so nice. I could definitely see the appeal of living there, especially if you have some money. Because, man, the restaurants there, hey, they ain't that way no more. Don't get it twisted. They ain't that way no more. Now, the only thing in San Francisco is homelessness. Like, everything's closed up. That's another story. Back to my other nested story. So San Francisco, you know, had fantastic restaurants and all that kind of stuff. And so they also had excellent bars. Like, the bars always had happy hour. It had a really strong happy hour culture. You know, after work, you get off, you go, and everybody's out, everybody's having a good time for, like, you know, between about 4:30, I'd say, till about 7:30, you know. And a lot of people did happy hour because they tried to avoid the traffic and the rush and all that kind of stuff. And so they're out there having a great time, and it was awesome. We got FOMO out there. Hey, FOMO, good to see you. And so we're out there, we're having a boot and a beer, right? And that's where that all came from. And you would go to these, like, really ornate, like bars, you know, where the guys, they were dressed like the 1900s guys with, like, the vest and the sleeve things that they tie around their sleeves to keep up, and they were called mixologists, and they took their shit really serious. And, you know, it's the kind of thing where they would pull out a whole block of ice and then chisel it down to put it into your cocktail, you know, and the ice was crystal clear, and they had all their little fixins, like the lemon wedge and the lemon rind, the orange rind, you know, all of that right there, the pomegranate seeds, the real deal stuff. And, you know, of course, every drink was like, you know, $35 or some shit like that, you know. Every drink was going to make you, like, fucking have to open a new credit card. A lot of these, you know, bars had their own credit system, you know. Makes sense. It was in San Francisco, right? So anyway, but they had, like, bro, Moscow Mule. They had the real copper, you know, real copper cups. This was before, like, well, homelessness was still pretty bad there, but now the homeless people run in there and they steal all the copper, you know. They rip it out the walls, they take the cups, and they go and they, you know, sell it off, melt it down, whatever the hell they do, just like in The Wire. But anyway, so I'm at this Christmas party, right? Back to the real story, people. Come on. I'm at this Christmas party, and I'm all excited. There's a couple girls there I want to talk to, chat them up, you know, being the kind of guy I am. I'm ready to go chat up the ladies, and I'm there with the boys, and, you know, we're sitting around, we're having a boot and beer before it gets all started, and, you know, we're getting all excited, and I start getting hot, right? So you start to get hot, you take off your sports coat, you know, because this is a panache Christmas party, right? And so you take off your sports coat and you have another boot and a beer, another boot and a beer, and before you know it, you're having a great time with the guys, right? You start entering that first phase of drunk where, you know, you're excited, you're happy. Then you enter the second phase of drunk. Well, you try to not do it too fast, but on that day, I played my cards wrong. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. I played my cards wrong. I went right through all them phases, you know, and then the party started, and I was so wasted that they just sat me down in the booth, and I was sitting there thinking about life. You know? I had achieved the philosopher status of being drunk. And so, you know, I would remember, I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, but I was so drunk at that time that I was sitting there in the booth, and my body was wasted, my mind was sitting there floating like beside me, saying, I can't believe you let yourself get this drunk. How in the hell did you not eat anything? What is wrong with you? You know better than this. And my mind was just in there, just browbeating the hell out of me. You know, that critical eye that we talk about during the week. It was browbeating the hell out of me. And I would see the girls come by, and they would look in my face to make sure I'm still breathing and stuff like that. And I wanted to talk with them, and I'd be like, hey, wait, come back. But my body wouldn't move, you know. And so that was the last time I did the whiskey thing. You know, after that, I was like, only tequila after that. And that whiskey thing, it just got me too much, man. Just got me too much. And it was too sweet. My body, like, now rejects the hell out of it. And I like tequila for a couple reasons. And I'll tell you about them in a second. Let me grab a little swig of my coffee. I love tequila because it's an upper. It's like the only alcohol besides, I forget what it is, like Saint Germain or something like that. That's an upper. And that's why I love it. It also has no calories. Also, if you get it, the top shelf tequila, it has no fillers in it. So, you know, it's quite easy to drink tequila, get a little buzz, and then if you eat, you can get like sober real quick, right? Again, if you want to. Or you can get another shot of tequila, keep going, you know. That's why I really like tequila. And, of course, I hate the taste of it. Don't get me wrong. I was talking to Presby Bro the other day, and he was getting on his tequila run, and we were talking tequilas. And I was like, oh, bro, he was saying, well, what kind of tequila do you like? And I had just about all the tequilas there are, right? And in fact, I want to go down to the Hacienda down in Jalisco, because if you don't know, tequila made in Jalisco is the only thing that can be called tequila. If it's not made in Jalisco, it's called mezcal, okay? It's kind of like the whole champagne thing over there in France. If it's made in the Champagne region, it's called champagne, but if it's not, it's called sparkling wine that you get at Costco, motherfucker. So, you know, you got to get that sparkling wine, that Kirkland brand sparkling wine. So, I don't really like mezcal too much, though. There's a couple of them that I like. Usually they put that peat flavor, that smoky flavor, which I can't stand in my beverages, bro. And, you know, I don't really like the taste of alcohol that much anyway. If it were up to me, I'd be drinking mudslides, milkshakes, pina coladas, all that kind of stuff all day. But, you know, they come with, like, a headache if you hit them pretty hard. So I like the tequila, though, right? Because it doesn't give me a headache. You know, no hangover, no headache. You drink as much as you want, and if you want to pull the ripcord and get sober, you can just go ahead and eat some food, and it pulls you back down nice and easy, like, right? And but don't make the mistake of getting tequila like Jose Cuervo or anything like that, boy. Because I tell you what, if you get that bargain bin, that well tequila that they tell you about, oh, you got a headache coming for days, my friend. You are going to be hurting for certain. And you will swear off tequila. And I'll say it's not really even tequila because it's not 100% agave. So you're giving tequila a bad name as it is. Well, not you, but the tequila people. And they're definitely misrepresenting what tequila can be and what should be. So, bro, if you're ever going to drink alcohol, okay, and you're not a hard-up alcoholic, don't ever drink that shit, that well shit. Don't ever drink the bargain bin stuff. Don't, you know, be careful. I know, like, Ryan, it's so funny. I giggle every time I watch the Ryan Harkness show. And I love that guy. I love that show. Watch it all the time. And I see him. He gets his Dewar's, you know, his big thing of Dewar's, and it's got that handle in it, you know. And one of my rules has always been, do not drink something with a handle. If it's got a handle, it's going to give you a headache, you know. And so I say, watch out and take it easy on the handles, you know, because I go and I buy all my alcohol pretty much at Costco. You know, Costco's got the best deals. Now, where I live, though, there is some pretty good Mexican stores, like Mexican grocery stores. Like, I swear to God, all they do is speak Spanish in there. And, bro, but they're fantastic compared to the American grocery stores. We got El Supra, Vallarta, we got a couple other ones, and they got such good produce, bro. They'll fucking blow your mind. And it's not all pretty and waxy like the produce that they try to put like in the you know, the nice ones here. And what's that rich one that they Whole Foods. Bro, Whole Foods is like a Disneyland for food. You go in there and you're at first you're like, it's all so pretty, but then like, bro, forget about it. Forget about it. Anyway, you go to this Mexican ones, right? I don't know how they do it, but they got tequila at bargain bin prices. And I'm not talking just like, you know, some made up tequila. It's real deal, like Patron, Don Julio, Casadores, whatever you want. And it's easily half the price is the American. Like if you go to a Vons or a Kroger or a Winn-Dixie. That was always my favorite one back south, was the Winn-Dixies, because it was just fun to say. You know, and I know they got H-E-B in Texas, and I can't stand that place. Can't stand it. But, you know, they got a Rouse and Pavilions and Albertsons, Safeway. But anyway, if you're in an area like Texas or somewhere else like that, some certain parts of Texas you can do it. Go get yourself your alcohol at a Mexican joint if you can't go to Costco, because at the Mexican place it's going to be cheaper. All right, now probably not like the whiskey or whatever, but the tequila will be cheaper. The only place I've seen it that cheap is at Costco, because when I go to Costco I get like, I think it's one of those 1.5 liter or 7, I can't remember what it is, but it's $70, and it's super cheap per shot, and that's the way I do it. I like to get the big daddies, and I pour it into a small guy, put them in the freezer, and I'm good to go. Party on demand, people. That's how we do it. Party on demand. So anyway, needless to say, at that Christmas party, I did not meet any ladies. Okay, I was busy sitting in the booth. And I remember my boss came by and looked at me, and he started laughing, and he said, "Oh, it got you, didn't it? It got you. Well, you stay there. We'll send you water." And and that makes me think of something else. Here, the worst Christmas party I ever went to. I went to this oh, no, it might have been a New Year's party. I can't remember. And you'll know why I can't remember in a minute. I went to this party, right? And I've always been, really friendly with the ladies, right? That's no mystery. I love me the ladies, and I just have good relationships with women, and I always have my whole life, right? And I just always get along with them, and I understand them pretty good. And it's probably because I have a good relationship with my mom, and so I've always been fans of the women. So the women are always inviting me to these parties, man. I've been to a couple really crazy Eyes Wide Shut style parties in San Francisco that a couple of models, invited me to, and they got me into it. It's pretty wild. Maybe I'll tell that story one of these days. But I got invited to this other party down in L.A. with some ladies invited me. It was a big-ass party, and they were going with a big group. And there was this guy, and he was like the ringleader of it all, and he was pretty wealthy, and he had a whole big bus and all this kind of stuff, and everybody gets on the party bus, and a big black bus with the stripper poles, and then you're going to go to the party or whatever. And so we all got on there, and it was like, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 guys, but there was like 15, 20 women, right? That's how these kind of things go. And so I'm all excited because, I didn't really have plans or anything like that, and so I get, these girls invited me. I'm like, hell yeah, let's fucking do it. Let's go. Get on the bus. Of course, I'm riding with the women. And, how excited is a man when the women he invites bring another man? Right? They're not excited at all. So I saw immediately that these 2 or 3 guys were just like, what the fuck is he doing here? Right? But they couldn't say anything because the girls I came with, they invited them. They liked them. They were fucking hot. They were in their little, lingerie outfit, Christmas, whatever. They're, how girls get. Any chance you can party in lingerie, that's what they're going to do. Whether it's Halloween or a Christmas outfit or whatever. And, bro, far be it from me to stop that. I'm all about that. So, fucking all aboard, right? Anyway, so I get on this fucking bus, right? And these guys are like eyeballing me like this. And so, they're passing out beers or whatever. And it's on a party bus, and they have like, they have their alcohol. And back then, the big deal was a Fireball, that Fireball whiskey. But, I just told you, I don't drink whiskey. I didn't drink it. I had stopped drinking it by then. And I really hated that Fireball shit. You know what I mean? I don't like whiskey that's all sweet and everything like that anyway. I don't like any of the alcohol that's sweet because I know instantaneous hangover. So anyway, so I'm just sipping on the beer, standing in the corner, everybody's dancing or whatever. And then we get to the party, the venue, and it's like downtown in LA, and it's a super nice venue. It's on the top of this building, rooftop bar, a pool on the side, all that shit that you think when you're like watching like Vanderpump Rules or Real Housewives, or if any of y'all watch any of that shit, that horse shit, right? So, but it's really nice. It's fucking awesome. They got the hanging lights. They got, those little lights that are on a string that are bloop, 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 that are dipping. They dip like that. They're really nice. And then they got all the big, palm trees up there, and all the big, like, wide leaf, green trees up there, and those big planters, and it's all arranged. And it looks like a big old garden, and the bar's in the corner, and they got a smaller bar on the other side of the rooftop. They got the DJ going, and it's all, and having a good time. Christmas decorations everywhere, just having a great time. And of course, my eyeballs are like, hell yeah, let's go. So then the guy, one of the guys, is like all of a sudden real nice to me, and he's like, "Oh, you know, I know you don't drink whiskey, you only drink beer." And I was like, "No, I do tequila." And he's like, "Oh, well, let me go ahead and get you a tequila. Let me get you a tequila." And I was just like, "Well, okay, well, you know, maybe now that we're not in the bus, and maybe now he doesn't think that I'm like going for one of his women. I don't know what it was. Maybe he had his eyeball set on one of these girls I came with." You know, they're all of them are knockouts in their own way. You know what I mean? Some of them were tall. Some of them had big boobs. Some of them this and that, whatever. And so I'm like, "Oh, okay." You know, and I said, "Well, you know, I'll take a tequila." He's all, "What kind of tequila you want?" I go, "You know, just, you know, Patron Silver on ice, you know, chilled or whatever." And he's all, "I'll tell you what, I'll get you a double." I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, let's go." And so he goes up to the bar. You know, and I'm sitting there chatting with all the ladies, you know, just doing my thing, holding court, you know, making jokes, telling stories, having a good time, you know, starting to getting ready to till the field, if it were, you know what I mean? Because we're out here ready to do some stuff, ready to meet some ladies, ready to talk some game and, you know, riz it up, mew and all that kind of stuff, mog the ladies and have fun. And that's what I was all about, you know, I was feeling it. So he comes back, and I'm got the ladies. We're all chit-chatting. We're all, you know, going on, you know, and he gives me my tequila. So I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah." So I cheers him, and I drank it. And, you know, I had a Coke with it, too, a Coke back. And, you know, so I'm going it, and I, you know, slam it down. And 5 minutes later, I was sitting there I remember looking at the pool, the blue of the pool, and then I didn't remember nothing for the rest of the night. In fact, I woke up at home the next day, and I didn't remember anything. And that's the first time and only time that has ever happened to me. First time and only time. And I was just like, I remember I woke up on my couch in my house, and my roommate, and he was like, he was like, "Yo, dog, you good?" This was like at 11:30, 12 the next day. And I was just like, I woke up, I had my sports coat on, I was like, you know, I had my hands folded on my chest. I was asleep. I still had my shoes on. I had my pants on. Had, you know, and I sat up on the couch, and I was just like, "What the hell am I doing here?" I couldn't believe it. And he looked over at me. He's like, "Yo, you good?" And I was just like, I looked up at him, and I was like, what's going on?" And he's like, "You must have had a real banger last night, but you were home early." And I said, "What?" All I remember was getting to the party, and then I don't remember anything else. And he was like, "Well, it was funny because at the time I lived in an apartment, and it had like it had a gate all the way around it, and you had to enter a code or whatever." And so what he told me was that the police had driven by, and I was sitting right on the wall of right where the gate is for our apartment. And he said that the cops drove by, and they came and they started asking me if I was okay and all this kind of stuff, and where I lived and all this. And I said, "I live right here, blah blah blah." But I couldn't remember the code, so they took me to the door, and then they knocked on my door with me, and my roommate answered, and they said, "Does this guy live here?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, that's my roommate. Is he okay? What's going on?" And the cops were like, "I don't know. We just found him sitting outside, out in front of the gate, and we brought him home, so he's all right." And the roommate said, "Okay, great." So the roommate said, "Well, all you did was come right in and lay down on the couch, and now you're up." And I was like, "Holy shit! What the hell even happened?" And bro, since then, you know, I've pieced it together, and that motherfucker spiked my drink. That asshole spiked my drink to get me out of the fucking competition for whatever reason, right? I don't know the reason, but you know, I've drunk, like, I could tell you, like, maybe four doubles, right? In an hour, been just fine, okay? You know, my max is like 12 shots, you know, before I eat something, right? I have to take 4 shots before I can even feel it, before I can even feel the buzz, you know? And so this motherfucker spiked my drink. You know, I talked to one of the girls later. She said, "Yeah, you couldn't even walk. You were slurring your speech. And we just stuck you in a taxi and sent you home." And I was just like, "That's it?" And so the taxi driver must have just pushed me out of the fucking car, right next to my apartment, and I just stumbled to the gate. And it's a miracle that I even had my wallet, and I still had my phone and all my teeth and all that kind of stuff. And it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And you know, that's how it is, right? The girls didn't even leave to make sure I got home all right. But I tell you what, if one of them got roofied or whatever, I would have made sure they got home. So I was like, fuck them. You know what I mean? Fuck that. So that was the worst. I think it was a New Year's party. I can't remember. I do know that the Christmas decorations were still up. But that was the worst party I'd ever been to, because obviously I got fucking roofied. You know? Fuck that shit. That's kind of why I'm like, I feel like, you know, that whole thing with Schizo Sean and the whole Content Hotel thing. You know, I met Sean. Sean's a great guy. And he's a big fella, too. He's the bunny ears guy, right? And he's the one that's going around trolling everybody with Riley and having a good time with it. And he's a big fella, you know. A couple of drinks ain't going to knock him down at all, you know. Hell, I weigh about 170, 175, and he's bigger than I am. He's a lot taller than I am, and he's a little bit thicker than I am, you know. And so I know that he got roofied too, I think. But that's my sense of the whole situation with my experience. And so I'm all fired up about it. You know what I mean? I hate it when that kind of stuff happens to women or even men, bro. It fucking gets me all fired up. I'm still mad about it today. And if I saw that motherfucker, I'd take his head off. I tell you, I would. But anyway, I don't talk to them people anymore. I seen how it was. And, you know, if I was in trouble, they just going to throw you in a cab? What if you cab took you to the wrong place or something? Or what if he just tossed you out because you were too drunk and you had to find your own way home in the middle of LA? I mean, there's some parts of downtown LA that's, you know, it's all right. But, you know, a lot of parts around it, you know, it's their little pockets. It's dangerous, and it's homeless, and it's people stealing stuff. And, you know, especially now. Well, this was a while back, you know, maybe about like 10 years ago or whatever. But nowadays, boy, I don't even know if they have parties there anymore. It's probably closed up just like San Francisco. I hadn't been down to LA in maybe 6 months or something like that. Last time I went, it was a sight. It was terrible. And you know what's funny about that? What's funny about LA is that it's kind of like the market exists there. Okay? All they have to do is turn it on. And they're keeping it off on purpose. And that's what's crazy. They're keeping it off on purpose. And I don't know what the purpose is. I don't know if they want to redistribute the society, the demographics of LA, if they want to make it, you know, a government-run economy where there's no more capitalism. It's all basically just kind of like, you know, they want to build these high-rises in LA in the Palisades area so that they can put like low-income housing there, so they can guarantee government subsidies so that the people who own the buildings can get guaranteed maximum payments every month, you know, and raise the property values artificially and all that. It's a whole scam. It's a whole fucking scam. But you know, it gets me all worked up, and I love LA. LA's beautiful, man. LA is beautiful, and but it is in a state of destruction right now, and San Francisco is even worse. It's even worse. I've been up to San Francisco since moving back, and bro, it's horrible. I wouldn't go there. And San Diego is terrible too. I used to live in San Diego a while ago, and I'm pretty much a Southern California guy, but I loved San Diego. I absolutely adored San Diego. You know, I spent a lot of time, grew up there. A lot of time after college there. It's where I got my first job. Down there on Balboa Park, L3 Communications. Love that place. Love the people there. Great place. But San Diego has just gone to shit because of the bureaucracy, the corruption, and the way that they're going to shape San Diego without even a vote. You don't even get a vote on it. They're just going to go ahead and do it, man. So it's really, really heartbreaking. It really is. It's really heartbreaking. Now let me go out here and see what's going on in the chat. We got the Spiritual God Warrior. What's up out there? All right, China all about California. That's true. A lot of Chinese people are buying stuff in California. They're buying a lot of real estate out in California. And the people who have the money are the ones who basically stole it from all the other Chinese people and stole it from, you know, U.S. aid and China is a mess in itself, and anybody who tells you that China is a threat to America is fucking lying out their teeth. It is a paper tiger that America, the CIA or whoever it was, propped up in order to be a boogeyman for us to justify all the things that we want to do. Kind of like how we had the space race with Russia back in the day, and the Cold War with Russia. That meant that we have to build up the military-industrial complex and put like 100 million missiles in Kansas and in Wyoming and silos, and we need all that money. That's the purpose of China and all that. That's what they're all about. And also in China, I see the Spiritual Godware says China calls San Francisco Old Gold Mountain. Yeah, it is. It's super important to them, like you're saying. It is super important to them. And when I was in San Francisco, I knew some people who own buildings in a very prominent place in North Hill. Is that right? Is that North Beach? North Beach, just north of Chinatown, and they were all Chinese. And the guy that I knew, or the girl that I knew, her father ran the Chinese Association. Anyway, it's like the Chinese Communist Party there or something, bro. And they own like 4 or 5 buildings right there. And she had an apartment right on the top of one of those buildings, you know, and talk about loaded, right? And but I've come to learn that Chinatown, dude, it's all communist. CCP ran in there. It's all CCP, Chinese Communist Party, through and through. They run it. They control it. The only place that didn't shut down during COVID was them. You know, they kept running their stuff. You know, everything else is closed down in San Francisco except for Chinatown. Chinatown is still open because it's being supported and being allowed to stay open. And it's wild. It is wild. And they have the undercover CCP people come over from China and try to exert social pressure upon people who are anti-CCP, who are especially the Chinese people. And they are ruthless. They like follow you out, and they find your family still back in China, and then they, you know, get a hold of them and try to pressure you to do whatever they want you to do. And they are mean. And they even have a foothold in all of our colleges called the Confucius Institute, which is really a front for the CCP in every academic place of academia, even all over the world. And it qualifies to get funding. It qualifies to get funding. Can you believe that? From the endowment, from the institution and all that. It's wild that we're paying for that. And I don't know if you all know, but Mao, you know, when he started the communist whatever, or he was used in it or whatever, he was picked out of a village and educated by Yale. How crazy is that? And then there's a whole big story about how even that came to be, and how the CCP, the Communist Party, even won against Chiang Kai-shek of you know, the Chinese Liberation Army, or I forget what it's called, but anyway, bare bones, brass tacks. What happened was America promised Chiang Kai-shek and his army, who had previously defeated Japan, right? They defeated Japan. We had promised them a whole bunch of weapons and stuff, and we backstabbed them. The CIA backstabbed them. Instead, gave all the weapons to the communist Mao, who had been hiding up in the hills during the war. And when the war was over, he came down from the hills with those weapons and backstabbed Chiang Kai-shek, and him and his whole group, his whole army, had to escape to Taiwan. So Taiwan became the real de facto culture center for Chinese culture, and it still remains that way to this day. It's the real center for Chinese culture, the Chinese food, the Chinese history, all the good stuff about China is in Taiwan. Whereas the Chinese Communist Party has destroyed it in mainland China, just absolutely fucking destroyed it. And even down to the point of introducing simplified Chinese form to destroy their language, to dilute it and all that kind of stuff. And it's a real sad sight. And I love the Taiwanese people, man. I've been to Taiwan, lived there for 2 years. I love the Taiwanese people. They're great people. And of course, there's only 3 places in the world that you can really get really good semiconductors, the chips that everybody uses, and that's Japan, Taiwan, and America. And so they're right there to show you and tell you how much of a threat China is when they have to get all of their chips from us. You know, they can only make like the chips that are like 3 or 4 generations behind what we do and what Japan does and what Taiwan does. You know, that's why they want Taiwan so bad. They want them fucking chips. But it don't matter. Even if they get the chips, they can't produce them because of the way their culture is. You know, their culture is antithetical to long-term refinement and production. They need that immediate. They need that, you know, to pull the a profit out of it right now. That's why they can copy anything, but they can't make anything of their own. And it's really crazy how that is. And but you know, needless to say, you know, that's the way it is. I've been to both. I've been to mainland China and Taiwan, and that's kind of my take in a nutshell on that one. But who else we got out there? We got James. Hey, what's up, bro? Good to see you. James said he got spiked in the club and nearly fell off of a pier back in the day. Wow, yeah. It happens. It happens to guys too. You know, it's crazy. It happens. Let's see here. Kingy. What's up, Kingy? Good to see you, bro. He says, I've never been that competitive over some cooter. I know. I hear you, bro. That's crazy. But you know, some guys get that way, and it tends to be the guys who never get pussy or that way, and then they get a little bit of money, and bro, they get nuts. You see it with the crypto guys, you know. You see it, with all these people, you know. I don't have time. I don't have time. Go away, please. Thank you. I got people coming to I got the Ravens coming to my door, you know. And so anyway, I got all kinds of stuff. But anyway, you know, people get that way, and it's wild. It's wild when they get that way, and it's a lot of the rich people that are newly rich, like a lot of the crypto guys. They don't have like that ability to be social. They don't have that ability to grow up and understand social cues and how to interact with people, and they get very entitled and very demanding, and they start to use their resources as weapons in order to try to force those women to like them. And let me tell you something, that never fucking works, okay? Even if you manage to get a girl, you can't force her to like you, bro. It's not gonna last. And nobody wants that kind of thing, right? Everybody wants somebody who can deliver. They want a guy who makes them feel comfortable. They want a guy that everybody likes. You know, they want a guy who can be social. They want a guy who's generous. And, you know, I call it like Big Daddy. Every girl wants to be around Big Daddy, right? And my idea of Big Daddy's this character. You know, it's this character in my mind. And he buys everybody drinks, and he's happy to see everybody. Everybody knows him. He's always ready to tell a good story. He'll listen to you. He's got good experiences. He'll tell a joke. He'll give you the spotlight so you can tell a joke or two. And he's just a really good host. And really, that's what women are attracted to. They're attracted to a really good host that's able to do that. Not to steal the spotlight and set it up so that they can force the women to give them the attention that they believe that they deserve for whatever reason, you know. But nobody likes that. And so I agree. I've never been like that or that competitive over cooter. That's how you gotta say it, cooter. But yeah, that's some crazy stuff, man. All right, we got There Goes the Neighborhood out there. Hey, what's up, Tony? Good to see you. We got FOMO out there. Let's fucking go, Mr. Jeeky. We got some other people out there. Let's see what we got. So anyway, that's kind of my take on the whole China thing, and you know, and how it's expressed through America. And I believe that basically, I've been listening to this guy, Professor Zhang, and he has a predictive history. It's called his channel on YouTube, and he's really good. He's a Chinese guy, and he's a professor. He actually went to Yale as well, which is very interesting. And he teaches at a university in Shanghai, but he also streams his lectures on YouTube. And he's blowing up right now. He's been very interesting. And he's talking a lot about hidden societies, secret societies, how, you know, the cycles of culture, the cycles of history, the cycle of a civilization, and how like bureaucracies work and how they become infused with the secret society, and how a secret society basically, you know, takes them over as they grow inept, because the secret society is able to communicate and organize itself across rows, but in the verticals that are, the bureaucracy, they become less and less effective, and they can't communicate with each other, which basically paralyzes them and makes them like a glove that the secret society's fingers can slip in and control. So at some point, the government becomes the secret society because they end up being the only group that can become effective within the bureaucracy. And so I find that super interesting, right? Super interesting. It's like when you come across a heroin addict and you're going to tell him, okay, tomorrow I know that you're going to shoot up heroin. And even if he doesn't want to, tomorrow he's going to shoot up heroin despite what you said. And that's kind of the things, the patterns that I look for in people and in society, so that I can better understand what I'm going to do and how to move my life, and how to move what I'm trying to accomplish in life. And so I can make it happen for myself, rather than getting spiked at another fucking Christmas party, right? Being roofied at another fucking Christmas party. I hate that stuff, Oh, what do we got? We got somebody in here. Cooter. That's right, Carrie C. Cooter. What's up, Carrie C out there? Yeah, you got to get after the cooter. Anyway, so that kind of brings me up to what I was going to talk about, which is the field theory, right? I was going to talk a little bit about field theory. We're going on about an hour. And let me knock this out real quick and talk a little bit about field theory. And so field theory can mean many, many things, but I'm going to talk about field theory in the context of societies, and in the context of even friendship groups, in the context of products, in the context of social engineering or social interaction. And so this is based upon my observations and upon my studies or whatever. So I'm not saying it's the end all be all or anything like that, but this seems to be a pretty good theory. I remember when I was younger, I started to be like, okay, so when you're young, you're taught one direction, and so you grow up that way, and you use the philosophies you were given, and you try to use those philosophies to push the buttons and the levers in the world, to get the result that you want, right? You're told, okay, you go 9 to 5, you invest your money, and put some in crypto and whatever, and you're gonna make a good amount of money or whatever, right? Or they say, if you be loyal to your company, whatever, through all of this time, then the company is going to be loyal to you and help you retire and all this kind of stuff, and they're going to give you your benefits and all that. Or the good thing to do is to be a good husband, a good father, and you go to your 9 to 5 job, you get the house, you do all these kind of things, and at the end of it, you'll be all happy, right? You'll be all happy. Well, turns out that's a bunch of bullshit. I don't know, have you guys come to that conclusion? But that's a bunch of bullshit. That's not how the world works at all, right? They say if you're good, you're going to be given good, and if you're evil, you're going to be given evil. That's not how any of this works. And so long ago, I started to try to figure out, well, how does the world work? How does the world really work? Like, I'm sitting here pushing these buttons and doing these levers that I've been told to push, and be a good guy, be disciplined, work hard, don't fuck people over, and here I am not going the place that I want to go, And so then I started looking, trying to figure out what buttons are real, what levers are real, and what's fake, So, as an analogy, I've learned and I've pulled off the entire front dashboard of my interface with the world, and I've figured out there's a whole nother series of buttons and levers underneath that dashboard, and the dashboard I was dealing with, it didn't connect to anything. It didn't connect to anything. And I realized that the only time things happened in my life were when other people would come in and use me as a resource. So, for example, I told you guys I did that modeling, and so I would have, my modeling agent would say, oh, you would be good for this, you would be good for that. But when I tried to do something on my own, like go in a direction or be do something in Hollywood or whatever, it just would keep getting shut down. And I would work hard, I would do the auditions, I would do this and do that. But if an agent came to me and said, hey, you'd be perfect for this, let's do this, it happened immediately, right? So I couldn't help but notice that. And it's the same thing. I would go to my 9 to 5 job and I would work at it. And if I didn't If I wasn't a resource to anybody, I wouldn't be pulled into other projects. But if I wanted to be in a project, I'd say, hey, I want to be in this project or that project. And they'd be like, okay, well, we'll put you on the list. Well, what the fuck? Nothing ever happened. I was there. I was at work, whatever. I was a good engineer and this and that and whatever. So anyway, while I was sitting in my cubicle, whatever, I started to try to figure this stuff out, right? I started to peel back the layers. I started to try to really understand. Now, I tell you, I was not drunk at this time, okay? I was not the drunk philosopher like I said earlier. And so I tried to understand, like, how does the world even work? How do these relationships work? How do relationships with people work? I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were together, and like I thought it was because of this, but maybe it was because of that. And I was trying to figure out, well, what keeps relationships together? What keeps people together? Is it love? Is it hate? What is it? What is it? How do people get locked into a situation and then stay in a situation forever or whatever? How does that work? So I started trying to figure it all out, and it took me a long time, but I think I got a pretty good grasp on it. And it has to do with field theory, okay? And you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? And I say, okay, well, did you ever, when you were in grade school or something, you were in science class and you had the big horseshoe magnets, and you put it down on a piece of paper, and you put another piece of paper on top of it, and then you put the iron filings, and the iron filings form that arc of that magnetic field, and you can see it because of the magnetic filings. Well, that's what I'm talking about. The field is what permeates all of us, and we are the magnetic filings, okay? Now, there's only two fields in the world, right? There's two fields. There's a field of order, and there's a field of disorder, okay? And this is primarily what I want to talk about, and if you have any ideas or you think I'm full of bullshit or whatever, throw it in the chat, man. Hell yeah, let's fucking go. Let's chit-chat about this. But anyway, there's only two fields. There's order and there's disorder. And it's like, there's not good and evil. That doesn't exist. There's not a Christian and non-Christian. That doesn't exist. All of those exist within these other fields of order and disorder, okay? And because there's order, there has to be disorder. Do you see that? The standard of order sets the standard of disorder. Do you get what I'm saying about that? So, like, because I want to put something in order, that means it has to have also come from disorder. So as soon as I establish the field of order, there is automatically a field of disorder, right? Now, people can align to either one of these. And the majority of society is programmed to align with order on a very low level order. And I think that's what the most of the basic tenets of religion is low-level order, right? Do this, do that, be good, don't sin, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And then conversely to that, there's a field of disorder. Okay? Now, the people who get ahead are aligned with the field of disorder. Okay? Now, you got to say, well, how does that, wait. What do you mean by that? Okay? Well, what's the definition of ahead? Well, the definition of ahead is profit, wealth, status, all of that kind of stuff. Okay? All of that kind of stuff, popularity, whatever, is all aligned on the opposite of order. It's all disorder, right? When you look out in the world, do you see that engineers and accountants and good fathers are pedestalized and they're famous? No. We look out, we see rock and roll people. Really, honestly, the biggest fucking losers in the world are these rock and roll people who have betrayed entire generations for the sake of the large establishment while pretending to be rebels, right? And they make a ton of money. They have get a ton of women. They treat them like trash. They, have terrible lives, but they're exalted, right? And so what has to happen is there has to be a big fat layer of order, okay? So think about all the people who work 9 to 5s for the little layers of disorder to exist above the layer of order. And the layer of disorder parasites from the layer of order. That's why it works that way. That's why those people get ahead. You don't get ahead through the concept of doing everything right, crossing your T's, dotting your I's. When you do that, you become a resource. Okay? You become a resource to somebody. Now, I'm not saying go out there and be bad. I'm not saying be evil. I'm not saying any of that kind of stuff. In fact, I'm saying that the concept of good and evil doesn't really even exist. It's the concept of order and chaos that really exists. And we kind of go ahead and what's that word? When you anthropomorphize these fields and give them a quality kind of like humans, which is good and evil. And the good and evil, I would define evil as without empathy. Trying to fulfill your desires without empathy, that's evil. And I would obviously define good as an empathetic, somebody who's empathetic. And of course, a lot of the cluster B personalities, people who are like sociopaths and all that, they look at empathy like it's a weakness. But they don't. It's because they don't understand it. They don't have empathy within them, so they can't understand empathy. And then, a lot of people who are empathetic, rear back and like, oh my God, and are in shock at psychopaths who then excel in the world and become highly successful or pedestalized or famous or become high achievers, high achievers as it were, because they're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to steal, to backstab, to step on, to do all these things in order to climb the ladder and become pedestalized. And I'm not even making a commentary on whether it's good or not good to be famous or pedestalized. And for the most part, I would say it's not good. Who wants to have all these people sticking their nose in your life? You don't want that, right? Now, you do like a little bit of status, because that makes it easier to get a table at a restaurant, or, if a girl, impress a girl or whatever. But realistically, rich and powerful people, they don't want to be famous. They don't want to be known, all right? They want to move in the background, in the shadows, kind of thing. But I was listening to that Professor Zhang on predictive history, and he was talking about, basically he's talking about these two fields. He's not saying it like I'm saying it. He's not saying order and chaos or whatever as the backbone of our society, and all societies, to that matter, and how people organize, right? But he was saying that, like in game theory, when you're trying to win a game, the best way to win a game is to cheat. And the best way to consistently win a game is to cheat, but make sure other people can't cheat, okay? And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that people who want to get ahead, they make sure that everybody else has to follow the law. We all have to be aligned with order, whereas they can align with disorder, and they can go ahead then and take, tremendous gains. Like, did you guys see that Donald Trump in that crypto crash made something like, what was it, like $4 billion or something like that? And that Baron Trump, like, made $80 million off a crypto coin in one night, in 2 hours? Did you guys see that? That's what I'm talking about, right? We got people out here working their entire lives to try to buy a house for, $200,000. This motherfucker makes $80 million in 2 hours, right? They're raising the property taxes on people who've already paid their house off. They're raising it to the point where it might as well be their mortgage all over again. I'm serious. Somebody used to have a mortgage of $1,200 a month or $800 a month. Well, the property taxes now are getting to the point where their property is being inflated in value to the point where their property taxes are being reassessed, and it's going to be even more than they paid for the mortgage, and they're having to sell their home. How is that fair? So, you can't ascribe to this concept of good and evil. It has to be the chaos and disorder. What do you guys think about that? Let me take a little swig right here. And when you start to see that chaos and order and chaos is the really the fields that are aligned, you start to realize, oh, this is why I wasn't picked. Oh, this is why I wasn't included. Oh, this is the type of people that are making the selection. Oh, this is how come I wasn't promoted. Oh, this is why I didn't. When I bid on that contract, I didn't get that contract. Because really, what's going on is like everybody. They set up this bid process, right? And then the people who really get the bid, they go back and they wine and dine in '69, the people making the selection, and they get the contract. That's how it works. That's how it works. Okay? That's how it works. And that's my concept on field theory. Now, I don't want to keep y'all too long. We're already coming up on an hour and a half, and I got a lot more to say about it. Trust me, I got a lot more to say about that. But you can start thinking about that, and you can see it clearly, even in like the social network realm or the social media realm. You know, you see where you, like for example, you got Mersh, and everybody knows I'm a big fan of Mersh. I do all kinds of like drawings of Mersh, love Mersh, and all that. And he's got this thing going on with Ralph right now, right? And I'm a fan of Ralph too. I like Ralph, and I like all the guys who are guys, right? And I kind of basically just describe to them, hey, if they mess up, everybody makes a mistake, everybody messes up, no big deal, right? Like I'm a huge fan of Dick Masterson, love that guy, right? And him and Ralph are on the outs now, and that's a shame. I wish it wasn't that way. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and it's none of my business. Okay, it's the same kind of thing with Mersh and Ralph. They had a falling out. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. It's none of my business. But from what I've surmised, there's been this girl, right? And it always starts that way. This girl comes in, and she is doing what she can do in order to, I don't know, get her attention. That's what she wants. And at first she's knocking on Mersh's door, and then she goes on over and knocks on Ralph's door, right? Well, her and Ralph hooked up, and now they're using whatever against the fact that it wasn't Mersh, and they're trying to make Mersh look bad or whatever. And the crazy thing is that's what this field theory is, right? This girl is using chaos to try to get what she wants. And she's halfway there. She got Ralph, now she's applying pressure to attain Mersh. And that's the way this shit works. You stay in order. You stay with stability. Order is long-term stability. Chaos is instability, but short-term tremendous gains, right? And so the trick is to kind of dance back and forth between the two fields. You want to go up? Well, you're going to have to jump on the chaos side a little bit, get some big gains, and try to jump off of it before it comes too unstable. And I don't really look at it in the sense that it's good and evil. I look at it in the sense that there's a forest. The forest represents order. Well, when the forest burns down, that's chaos. Then the forest has to regrow back to order, and that's what happens. And so that's kind of how I look at it. Even all out in the world, and I try to position myself that way. So that's kind of what I wanted to just share today and talk about that, and see what you guys think about that. See if that's hell. Maybe it's not even interesting. Maybe I'm the one. Hell, maybe I'm drunk right now. I'm not, but you know what I'm saying, right? And so I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about all this stuff while I'm drawn and everything like that. And it don't mean I'm right either. It don't mean I'm right. Now we got, let me look out here in the chat and we'll see what's going on. We got Spiritual God Warrior. He says dualism truth. And that's an interesting statement. And the reason why I think it's interesting is because it all has to do with your point of view. Unless it's absolute, right? And the reason why I say there's an absolute truth that runs in the backbone of everything is because the absolute truth is dictated by the consequences of the natural world. 100%. The consequences of the natural world dictate truth. Okay? Like, you set a tree on fire, it burns. That's the consequences of the natural world. Now, whoever you want to say created the natural world, of course, we can all postulate and try to figure that out and be spiritual. And but I guess we're never really going to know until we cross to the other side. And then we'll know, right? But whoever set it all up aligned all the truths and encoded a law within the natural world, within the consequences of the natural world. And so that absolutely is the truth. Now, can you get into, like he said, dualistic truth? Well, that totally depends on your point of view and how many points of view you're trying to take, trying to encompass or trying to think about or consider. And, personally, I believe that there is an absolute truth that runs behind everything. But I do see that people can operate in a relatively moralistic frame of mind. And a lot of people do this. But in order to operate in a relativistic moral state of mind, you have to be parasiting off of people who operate in absolute truth. You have to. Have to. A really good example is women. You know, when women monkey branch, and that's when they swing from man to man, they're able to operate in completely relative moralism. Completely relative, meaning they can pick and choose which rules to enforce or which morals are important, and they can say one day the sky is blue, and the guy's like, yeah, the sky is blue, and the next day they can say the sky is green. The guy's like, yeah, the sky is green. And so they can shape their reality, right? They can shape their experience, and they can bend truth and sometimes break it and change it all around. Well, they can do that as long as there are absolute truthers willing to support them and to support their pocket of relativism. As soon as they ain't hot no more, or ain't no man want to have nothing to do with them no more, maybe they got like 13 kids or whatever, maybe they get fat, who knows. Well, then the consequences come smashing in on them, and that's what everybody calls the wall, right? Their little heyday of relative morality is over, and they're forced to deal with the consequences of the natural world. Even more so now when people are saying, you know, equality and all that crap. So it's very interesting to witness. And what I'm interested in is results. I want results. I want to have, just like you're an engineer or whatever in the laboratory, I want to make a hypothesis, set it out, have an experiment, have observations, and then have the truth come back, right? I don't want to have this, you know, biased view of the world based upon relationships. I want to know what's real. And I want to know what's real because when you know what's real, then you're able to move accordingly in an effort to become successful. And whatever you deem or I deem successful, you know, perhaps I only deem successful being a family, a kids, a house paid off, you know, whereas maybe you think successful is owning a whole building or something like that, you know. And that makes me remember I was with my boss when I was living in San Francisco, and my boss he grew up in San Francisco, and he was a cool guy, a really nice guy, and he grew up and he went to school with all the really wealthy people in San Francisco. In fact, I went with him over to the Getty's house a few times, and I actually met the Getty. I think it was John Paul. I can't remember. But I met him, and I went to his house. He had a number of houses in San Francisco, and I went to one, and he had like a whole mushroom room in one of his houses, and he had real Picassos on the wall, and a real Van Gogh and some other artwork. You know, blew my mind, bro. It was like I was in a museum. I could just walk up and touch them, you know. And he gave me a tour and all this stuff, and he had chairs that were worth like $600,000. They looked like these big. You know, he had a whole room full of them, like we would put folding chairs out. Well, he had these really ornate, gold-leafed, Victorian era style chairs, and I was just like, wow. And this big, huge room, and he had a big, huge stage set up because he had rock concerts in there. He had rock and roll people coming through there, like real rock and roll people, like the Rolling Stones and. Like, you know, they would play for an audience of like, you know, I'm sure he had a party, and I wasn't there when it was going on, but, you know, there was like maybe 60 chairs set up. So, you know, it couldn't have been huge, like, I'm thinking 1,000, probably like maybe a couple hundred people in this mansion or something. And you know, every room had a big bar in it. Anyway, I was out with my boss, and we were walking, and so a lot of times we went and got lunch together. And we would go down to San Francisco and get lunch, and you know we we worked right down there on the Embarcadero, and that's where the office was, on Sansom Street. And we would walk down into the Embarcadero, whatever, get lunch or whatever, and he would point out to me, oh yeah, I know the guy that owns that building right there. I know the guy that owns that building right there. And these are big ass skyscrapers, man. They weren't like little tiny buildings, or I mean. They would be big buildings to me and you, but they weren't like these little tiny buildings that, you know, only had 3 or 4 stories. I'm looking at a 25-story building, you know, with the whole big skyscraper facade, and I'm just like, wow, you know the guy? Oh, no, yeah. He's like, I was over at the Olympic Club last week, and we had lunch and blah, 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 blah. And he said to me, he's all, you know, I'm really happy with where I am, though, because I'm not willing to do what it takes to become that wealthy. And that always stuck with me. And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, you know, at that time, I didn't ask him, but I thought in my mind, wow, what does it take to become that wealthy? You know, and since I've learned what it takes, and I've learned what you have to do, who you have to run with, and one of the things he told me is he just said, I'm not really, I couldn't hurt that many people. That's what he said. I'm not willing to do what it takes to become that rich. I couldn't sleep at night if I had, you know, hurt that many people or something like that. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. But it brings me back to the field theory, the aligning yourself with order, with chaos. You know, order is going to be stable, and it yields good relationships. It's that concept: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Be kind, give empathy, and receive empathy. But you know, there was a point in my life where I acted that way with some people, and they didn't reciprocate. They used me, and so I started to think about it. There must be another something else that these people are aligning with. Something else that they are. Some other kind of morality, you know. And you know, you could say it's a lot or a little. It's all on a continuum, but it's left or right, you know, black or white, you know. And so that's my idea about the field theory. Let's go ahead and check and see what we got in the chat before we wind down and get out of here, okay? All right, everybody. Got James out there, got Carrie out there. Good to see you guys. Spiritual God Warrior. Good to see you. Good to see you. You know, love all that stuff. FOMO's out there, Mr. Jakey, Tony from There Goes Neighborhood. I really appreciate everybody coming by. And just hearing me talk a little bit about, you know, what I think about when I'm drawing, because I have a lot of time to draw, and I think about all this stuff, and I try to put it all together, and I try to figure out how to get through in the world, and how to figure out how to get through in life. And you know, there's a lot of stuff that I have figured out that I don't know if I could talk about on YouTube, but a lot of experiences that I have had that I don't know if I can talk about on YouTube. But that's all the juicy stuff that I'm going to have to talk about sometime, right? So I appreciate y'all being here. And we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Paulus Arts, thanks for being here. All right, everybody, kick ass. Have a great rest of the week. Now, tomorrow I'm doing a Sunday Fun Day. I'm doing all this bone broth for a reason. So check that out. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, later, guys. Good seeing you.